must rebuild my empire. Taoist, will you help me?
Certainly. I'll help you to restore your status again, but first we must get rid of that Robo warrior.
Huh?
Welcome to Second Class Cinema, the show where we watch a B movie and then immediately discuss. I'm Tom. I'm here with Brittany, Eric, and Dennis. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Today we watched the 1988 Godfrey Ho movie, RoboVampire. This movie was Eric's selection. Why don't you tell us why you chose this movie? For God's sakes, why?
Why would you do that?
I'm sorry, you guys. All right, so as you said, this was directed by Godfrey Ho, and he was responsible for directing approximately 1 billion ninja movies in the mid-'80s from Hong Kong. And generally his MO was he would take like an unfinished kung fu movie or whatever, and he would splice in his own footage to make a whole movie, and he would essentially get like 4 or 5 movies for the price of one. Like I said, most of his movies were generally like ninja kung fu flicks. This one was a little outside of his usual territory. It features robots and vampires.
Oh.
And that intrigued me because I'd never seen him breach this kind of territory before.
All right. There might be a bit of a battle over what this movie's actually about, but we'll give it a shot.
I know exactly what this movie was about.
All right, what do you think it's about?
Guarantee you don't.
What do you think it's about?
Oh, there I go laughing again. It started off with this drug ring, and they enlist the help of zombie vampires. Jiangshi, I think the folklore name of them is.
Yep.
They're hopping zombies.
Yep.
From China. And, drug ring, and then they got government officials going after them.
I thought you knew what this movie was about.
I'm telling you all about it. That's
All right.
what's happening.
All right, keep coming. Keep going.
Anti-drug agent.
Yeah, anti-drug agency going after them, and then one of the drug agency guys is killed and brought back a la RoboCop, and he fights the zombies. Somebody help me out.
He is the titular Robo-Vampire. Robo-Vampire, even though he's only Robo and not vampire at all.
So this movie's very deceptively named.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. I mean, what do we think? Do we think that was an appropriate synopsis of this movie? Because I can read the official one.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the part where
right.
one of the anti-drug agents gets captured by the drug lords, and there's this completely separate set of characters that have to rescue her.
Yeah, all of a sudden there's like these
Roboton has nothing to do
mercenaries.
with this. Yeah.
Roboton.
So I think we pulled out of it. There were 3 actual movies. At
That's
least
what we
I
think.
thought.
Yeah.
There was the Jiangshi. I don't even know how to fuck to say that.
That's close enough.
The Chinese zombie movie, which was one. Then you had the drug ring. Oh no, was that
The mercenary part.
The mercenary part,
where
was
they're
2.
trying to extract this character named Sophie who worked for the anti-drug ring.
And then there was the Robo Cop ripoff.
Yeah.
Presumably it was directed by Godfrey Ho.
That was the part. Yeah, we decided was Godfrey Ho, full on Ho.
And you say he traditionally does this with his movies. He takes other unfinished pieces from Asian movies, and then Americanizes them slightly.
Yeah, he'll usually he'll pull like some Caucasian actors and film like 30 to 45 minutes of his own footage, splice it all together, dub it so it makes some sort of negative sense. Whether or not it worked, and like in this case, this is a really bad example of it. This made no sense whatsoever.
Mildly
It
coherent.
made perfect sense to me.
Sometimes he does a decent job at least making everything string together, even if you can tell. Like one actor has never seen another actor before, even though they're talking to each other in a scene. This time it was completely schizophrenic. Like it's almost impossible to follow the plot.
Yeah, it was a very difficult plot to follow.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
I think that's how we were trying to piece together which movies were recreated and which were kind of like you said, his B-roll, if you can even call it that. Because sometimes an actor would be in the same scene, but it's like, oh, are they going to interact, or is it just going to be cutting back and forth between these 2 unrelated actors? So I think that was a way we kind of pinpointed, okay, this is one movie.
Yeah, it was bad enough to do that with. It was bad enough to say like, oh, okay, well, that was definitely from the other movie that they shot.
Yeah.
So what else kind of was a misstep that this movie took? Beyond just, trying to cram a bunch of ideas into one big thing. What are some more missteps?
The dub and translation was amazing.
Well, it's funny you say translation because they even dubbed the parts that were filmed in English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little, like there's just so many good lines, and this tends to happen in Godfrey Ho movies where, kind of like Troll 2, like the lines are just being read as is. There wasn't like a
No
native
emotion.
Yeah, there's no like native English speaker to say, hey, you should juice this up like in this way. This is like an idiom that we
You need
use in
inflection here.
Yeah, exactly. So, you have lines like, Tom, that goddamn anti-drug agent. He'll train vampire to deal with them. Come on, show us he's vampire.
Let me take a look at those drugs.
God bless our drugs.
All direct quotes from this. Well, actually, it's definitely from the dub, but I think that was over all 3 movies you may have pulled some random quotes from.
Yes.
Yeah.
God bless us. Every drug.
Any other overall missteps this movie took?
Costume design.
Oh, costume design. Our Robo, our main character, he definitely wasn't our main character. He was barely in this thing.
RoboCop. Let's just call him that.
Yeah,
Tom.
He's Robo Tom.
Robo Tom.
His name was Tom.
Yeah.
I missed that completely.
Narcotics agent Tom Wilde.
For some reason, when you guys were calling him Tom 2.0, I thought you were calling him Tom because he kind of walked like you.
Did he?
I didn't think that at all.
Really robotic? Is that how I walk?
No, because you do the Tom dance and you're kind of stiff.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
don't
yeah,
do
all
a
right.
Tom dance and it's Tommy
See how
stiff.
it is.
Yeah, come on. Come on now.
Tommy Stiffy. That's what I'm trying to say.
But
Okay, but back to this guy's
the costume design.
So they got just the cheapest like samurai Halloween costume and spray painted it silver, and it didn't fit this guy correctly, and it was usually askew in most of the shots. He had like a strap that like came around on the helmet, like down under his chin,
It
and
looked
it was
like
like
hockey pads.
Yeah,
Like hockey pads spray painted silver.
Oh, yeah. He was wearing like Reeboks. You can like see it underneath
His movement was so fluid and not robotic
Oh
at
my
all.
god, that's another thing. You've got these zombie characters, which I guess in the folklore they're supposed to be stiff, rigor mortis ridden corpses who hop around because they're so stiff. And then you've got this big clunky robot who is also a big stiff guy. But then they're only stiff when
they're not interacting.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
they want to be. When they're fighting, they're just people doing flips and backflips and slapping.
Yeah, the
Sweet kung fu.
Jiangshi can't walk, but they can like flip and do every kung fu
Yeah.
known to man. Do cartwheels, like somersaults. It's all game.
They're
except
pretty
for just
lethal.
walking in a straight line.
Pretty lethal. And I would say not even just the robot's costume design. Everyone's costume design was pretty poor.
Yeah.
Our main guy, the Tom Wilde, before he turned into the RoboCop, was wearing, what was that? A kerchief around
like
his neck?
just a red kerchief.
Yeah, and it was just the silliest thing you could possibly imagine on a human man.
Well, I can top that.
Okay, here
there
we go.
was that one henchman at the beginning of the movie that was just wearing like a blue and white windbreaker that said "racing" on the front.
That's true.
What do Americans like? Racing.
Racing.
All the good guys were dressed in like button-up shirts and sports jackets, and then all the American guys were, and then all the bad guys, quote unquote, were dressed like guerrilla warfare people.
Speaking
Or
of
like-
real, I gotta disagree. I think all the John Chu zombies were dressed pretty good.
I like that costume design. I don't disagree with that.
I do too.
Yeah, but what I think was, so for the original Jiangshi movie that they made, it looked like they just mimicked what was already there, if in fact that was a movie that he had pulled from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So someone else already created the design. He just, aped it.
Well, that's the way they look in like throughout folklore. They have the little funny hat and the funny suit and the ponytail.
So he was pretty restricted with what he could do with it.
That's
they
kinda
look like
I-
they look like bellhops.
yeah, kind of like Chinese bellhops.
I do think the makeup design in the original, at least what we think was the original footage, was a lot better.
That very first
Oh,
scene.
yeah.
Yeah, like the very first scene
yeah.
where like the Jiangshi has like the pizza bubble coming out of his forehead.
Yeah.
And the snakes jumping out of the box.
Yeah, that was really cool. I like that.
Because
Ready-
as soon as it was time to make his own Jiangshi, he just threw an ape mask on it and called it a day.
Lazily.
He's like, gorilla mask, black wig, we're good. Roll it.
What we're saying is at the beginning scene, when you're first introduced to the zombie character, it's the mercenaries opening up this crate and it's full of snakes. And then the snakes jump out, and then the zombie pops out, and he looks really good. But then, like we were just saying, later on, there's one of them, a zombie Jiangshi thing, and it's just a gorilla mask.
Yeah, like the first one had like boils and like looked
Yeah.
all like ill, like its skin was melting off kind of.
But the other one, yeah, just a gorilla mask. It's just a straight up gorilla.
Any other poor qualities of this movie that didn't entertain us? Because, I mean, this movie overall, relatively entertaining. We followed it as best we could, but is there anything else about this movie that kind of fell short and we were kind of a little upset with?
I think Brittany's got something to say about that.
No, I didn't really write down any weaknesses because they were all just more things that I didn't like or that were just silly and not so much a weakness, like Nipple Ghost / Gorilla Jiangshi sex scene. I mean, that's not necessarily a weakness, but it was still ridiculous.
Fucking weird.
Well, it wasn't even a sex scene. It just felt like one. It
Yeah.
felt like it was going to be one, and it never was.
No, they were totally
Played
having.
patty cake.
They
and
were
then-
totally having ghost sex.
Is that what was happening?
Oh yeah, there was moaning. There was smoke.
Yeah, the drug
Ghosts moan, though, anyway.
the
Whoa!
drug cartel apparently like summoned this ape Jiangshi to like help them fight the drug enforcement agency.
Yeah.
But along with this gorilla Jiangshi came this lady witch ghost with long dark hair and like see-through nipple robes, and they were like lovers apparently. But then her lover got turned into a vampire, and he was doomed to spend eternity away from her.
Oh, yeah, she was pissed about
So
that.
then she showed up when he showed up and just started like fucking things up for everybody.
Yeah.
But they had a really creepy sex scene which they would just like dance past each other and like glide past each other, but it was like oddly sensual. I don't know. It's
Ghosts
so
are very
weird.
coy.
Jiangshi would hop after her. Hey, come back, honey.
And then she'd be like, and then she would like crouching tiger herself like 4 floors up.
All right, so if we don't really have anything else poor about this movie, let's move on to things that we liked about it. Some positive notes.
I thought the choreography and the kung fu scenes was pretty respectable.
I can agree with that,
It
yeah.
was.
Not bad.
Considering considering the vehicle for the movie is RoboCop, the martial arts was pretty good.
With zombies.
And that
Yeah,
was
of course, with
strictly,
zombies.
that was really restricted to the human on human violence.
Right. I don't
Very
think
much.
it had anything to do with Godfrey Ho.
Yeah. 'cause
Those are from different movies.
The zombie vampire on human violence is very poorly executed.
I mean, actually, like the mercenary parts kind of, I don't think we've talked about on the show yet. It kind of reminded me of Death Raiders, which was this
yeah.
awesome, I think, Filipino like war movie / kung fu movie, which is kind of like a unique combination I've never really seen before. It was kind of cool to see that again in this.
Yeah, they did touch on that kind of genre very slightly here, but I don't think that was intentional. I think that was just happenstance because that's where he pulled the movie from. Well,
Like,
looks
we gotta
pretty
use this
good.
footage.
Just stick it in. Any other positive notes?
I thought the dialogue was great.
It was phenomenal.
I mean, it was terrible, but it was so funny.
I still have more things written down. That
It
I
was
haven't read
just,
yet.
I feel like it was just a wildly inaccurate dub.
Yeah, it was twisted to make the movie he wanted to make.
Yeah, anything that these originally started out as were just completely lost.
Can I read some quotes?
Yeah, Eric, let's see what you've got from this movie.
All right. Who are you guys? 2 of the meanest fuckers around. That's who. You should bathe more often.
That's right. He said that to a woman.
Yes.
That was his pickup line while she was bathing.
And then they pressed their faces against each other with their eyes wide open.
Two
Ladies
humans who
love
have never kissed
flattery.
in their life.
And in regards to Nipple Ghost and the Gorilla Mask, a marriage between a vampire and a ghost, with your magical powers, I'm sure you can make it happen. So this is the kind of movie we're getting into, guys.
Yes.
Yes, so a lot of the dialogue was really good, but
Favorite part? Well, not
well, no,
favorite.
success.
Success. If we're going to go talk about magical powers, I got to give it to the sparkler effects in this movie.
All right.
So many sparks shooting out of fingertips and heads and
Yeah, there's a lot of
fire.
sparklers.
Oh, it was awesome.
They bought like a 58 pack and just like handed them out. And they're like, here.
They put them on all the tips of the guns, and each gun fired exactly the same with the exact same sound effect. Blam, 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 blam.
Speaking of the sound effects, I really liked. I mean, they didn't really fit all the time, but I liked the actual sound effects themselves. There was a lot of laser noises, a lot of like power up kind of noises, like all that kind of. It was just. It was really. I mean, it fit what the Robo theme, but I mean, the Robo theme was so small compared to everything else in this movie.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
the sound effects felt really out of place, but they sounded cool.
Yeah, it's kind of reminded me of like some of the old James Bond movies where they just throw random sound effects in because they just discovered those sound effects for the first time. They're like, well, we got to use it somewhere.
Well, it's like
Sean Connery's
Star
climbing
Weapon.
through a vent and they make like a laser noise. Sure.
It started out
Sounds
over the
cool.
top and it just kept it there the whole time.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's very accurate. It was very consistent. Any other successes that we want to, give this movie a break? What was good? Anything else? Unless we're done.
I don't know. I just found it enjoyable pretty much the entire way through. I would have a hard time pointing something down that I could say is really good about it.
Yeah,
There's just lots of great moments of silliness.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie was very silly. And I think that's part due to him pulling from, so many other movies to make this one movie, which is also lending to the risk of this movie, which is I'm going to make this movie slam into this movie and take a little bit of that one, and then I'm going to tie them all together. I can imagine that's actually pretty difficult.
Oh, yeah. And especially for such disparate topics as Chinese vampires versus RoboCop versus mercenaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done it to better success in okay, well, you have one martial art movie and you have another martial art movie. We're going to cram together. That's a little easier to do than what happened here.
Oh yeah, totally.
Do you think that he was asked to do this? I mean, quick question. When did he start doing this? When did he start making these kinds of movies? Do we know?
If I had to guess, I'd say probably early 80s, and I want to say he probably wrapped up shop probably early 90s.
Okay.
I think this totally was farted out, though. Like we were talking
Right.
about before this, he saw RoboCop and said, "Oh, I can do that," and
Yeah.
had two completely unrelated movies, but needed something else to shove into his RoboCop movie.
Definitely.
So then it said, "Okay, this will be the Robo vehicle."
Exactly. I mean, it must have worked because it worked for me. Well, I saw the title and I wanted to watch it.
It totally worked.
Oh, yeah.
It was fucking great.
And he probably spent a dime on it.
But I love that it lends to different interpretations of it. Like, you ask one person, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, it was about this. But then you ask somebody else, and they're like, oh, yeah, it was about that. And they could have, threads in common, but it might not be exactly the same thing.
And not a single person is going to say it was about a robot.
Seriously.
Or rescuing the American.
Yeah, extraction. Well, what I was trying to get at was, do you think that this came later in his career and he had already a reputation for doing this, and someone said, hey, we need to make this RoboCop movie real quick. What can you do? And he, spread his magic on it. Do you think that was kind of maybe a potential situation? Or do you think it was all like, I need to make a RoboCop movie now?
I think it was a pretty...
I like to think it was that.
Yeah,
I think he was a pretty shrewd businessman. I think he saw RoboCop come out in America literally months before, and he just slammed something out and made bank off of it.
So it's a mockbuster
Kind of,
to
yeah.
sell back to us.
Yeah.
Much like is happening now with the Asylum movies, and people have been just making movies of movies.
Yeah.
Like Atlantic Rim.
Yeah.
And Snakes on a Train.
Exactly. Transmorphers. All of which are awesome, by the way. So any other risks anyone wants to throw out there about this movie? Anything else? Are we all wrapped up? Let's move on to favorite parts then. Anyone, please.
I know you guys already had some. So
All right, my favorite part, it's right at the beginning. It's not the first Jiangshi introduction. It's when they kind of slam together the drug cartel, drug pushers, and the Jiangshi, and there's a cute little Jiangshi fight. How many times can I say Jiangshi in this description?
I'll keep going.
And they fight the Jiangshi as the Jiangshi hop around the Jiangshi, and there's a
too many
flying
times.
chicken, and there's pyrotechnics.
Pyrotetanus.
You gotta get a shot for that.
Yeah. You make sure you got all your vaccinations.
And there's dusty punches and all this wire fighting, there's fucking everything. That second scene?
Yeah, it was when the Bless These Drugs scene.
Bless these drugs, that's right.
Which we think was from a different movie.
Yeah, totally. Because then it's the only time they defeat the Jiangshi by putting like a little magic prayer card or whatever it is on their forehead.
Kind of like a scroll.
Yeah.
You, just
I
to
assume
their
some
head.
kind of a spell that stops their movement.
And that's when we meet one of the characters that kind of comes in and out of this movie, which he seems like he's the controller of the Jiangshi.
He's my
like
favorite
so-so.
character.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He was really cool.
Yeah,
He's
he was
great.
doing a lot of cool, wacky stuff. And on that scene, real quick, when I was watching it, I was like, this is a comedy. Like
totally.
the way it was shot, the way everyone was moving, it was like, that feels to me like it was meant to be funny. Whereas the stuff that came later was not meant to be funny. And it was just this weird crossbreed. And it ended up making this really weird mood through this whole movie where I didn't take anything seriously at all.
I mean, the monsters are goofy in general because they just kind of hop.
Yeah.
They look like funny little Easter bunnies jumping around. And then, like you were saying, there's a lot of comedy in that second scene because the guy gets his dick burned with a cigarette.
Yep.
That's in the Jiangxi's mouth. He kind of gets a little too close and, ooh, my tip.
Yeah. It was really slapstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was silly.
like doing crazy camera mugs and
Yeah. I thought that was a
And
really
then,
good part.
That's my favorite part because I like to laugh. And if there's a problem with that, hey.
Well, we can transition to my favorite part, which is kind of an overall theme through the movie, which was the use of dummies.
Yes.
Which they did not just have any shame about using
It
it
was
all.
probably the best part of the entire
I
movie.
love a good dummy.
Oh man, they were throwing dummies off of rooftops.
Yeah, that was like the last thing in my strength category, and it was going to be my favorite part, but then you said you were going to do dummies.
Yeah.
It was man thrown off roof.
Oh yeah.
So it was just like a fucking helicopter spinning limp body. Oh, it was great.
Yeah, they blew up dummies. They were throwing dummies. They were kicking dummies.
Lighting them on fire.
Yeah, lit them on fire. It was fantastic.
In that last one, all they were missing was a dub of a guy going out of the building, and it would have been perfect.
Yeah, it was ounces away from being perfect. Favorite parts, Eric?
I kind of liked that Robotom just sucked. Like, you
Terrible
go,
aim.
You go into the movie expecting like a RoboCop knockoff. He's going to be impervious to bullets and he's going to kick ass. Through the entire movie, pretty much all the way up until the end, fails to shoot anyone, fails to beat anyone up, gets blown up by a rocket launcher. He sucks. He's terrible.
He's terrible. Well, then they had to remake him after he got lit on fire.
Yeah.
And then he came back worse.
I don't know about worse, though, because he was shooting Jiangshi through the entire movie, and it had no effect on them whatsoever. And then the end of this movie just boils down with him pulling a gun out of nowhere and shooting all the Jiangshi, and all of a sudden they are not impervious to bullets, and then they all die, and then he strolls away casually.
Because he had to believe in himself. He had to get that human element
Oh,
back.
so
because
they
he
installed
flashed back.
that during the rebuild?
Well, yeah, he
His
was
confidence
he was
chamber?
flashing back to when he was still human, and
Well, that happened
Yeah.
so long ago.
No, that happened right before the end because that's
No, it
when
didn't.
he spies Nipple Ghost and Gorilla Mask having an intimate moment, and he thinks back into his human brain
Nipple Ghost.
to when him and I don't know, his other thing were having a romantic thing.
Oh, this is so coherent right now.
right.
just like the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, it kind of just launched. It was just like, oh, next shot is his memory. No, like, dissolve.
Yeah.
Or, like...
No, like, weird, like, blurry white border to let us know it's a flashback, like in Saved by the Bell or
And
anything like that.
it wasn't anything like romantic. He was like sitting there with a lady, and then she like got up and walked away and like stared off into the distance.
As long as you're going to be a cop, I'm leaving. And then he was all upset.
Oh, another favorite part, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
The surgery scenes where he's becoming where he's becoming a robot. It involves using sparklers as like some sort of cauterizing tool,
Light it quick.
and they don't even try to pretend it's not a sparkler. Like you can see them lighting it, and it's just like black at the end.
And then don't they like put something inside of like
Yeah,
a
they're
body part?
No, they've got like metal kneecaps and legs, and they're welding them together.
And then
they're just like putting like
torso though, and they were like shoving something in
they were
there.
just like taking random like pieces of a motor or something and just shoving it in there.
It really looked like someone putting together a children's bike.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say,
And then,
you know when you're a little kid and you save all, like, the broken toys you have that are, like, have, like motherboards, and you're like, I'm going to build a robot. That's what it felt like.
yes. And then there was the healthometer on the front of the screen, where they were like operating on Tom, and like it just had this giant plus sign, and then it started to fade out, and we're like, well, he's got no more pluses. He's obviously dead.
It faded up to a red negative.
Red negative sign.
Oh,
Like,
God. Oh, God. We have too many red negatives. Get more green pluses.
There was a point where the green plus went completely away, and it was a red minus. So
Oh.
you know he was dead.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Was that near the rebuild?
That was the
I think
first build.
Yeah, I think, and it came back in the rebuild.
Okay.
This thing, the concept, it felt like, because when we used to make movies, it felt like something we would make when we were like, oh yeah, we're cops and we beat a drug ring, but then there's zombies. We got to get out of the zombies, so we blow the place up.
Yep.
Zombie vampire goons.
Yeah, exactly. It just felt like it's 19 different ideas crammed into one.
Yeah, there's this weird mood that movies like this give off, which remind me, like, it makes me feel like whoever conceived this movie never grew up past 12, and they're just making, or maybe they're just living in the past, and they're just like, oh man, like there's these things that I felt when I was a kid, I'm gonna make them now.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't get it. I don't understand.
This would be sweet.
People say it about like movies nowadays, like a Transformers, like, oh, it feels like a kid playing with his toy box, and they say that like it's a derogatory thing.
Yeah.
But I get that. I love that kind of feeling, and I feel it more so with a movie like this.
Oh, yeah.
When it does
Yeah.
feel like, oh, okay, I've got my cop toys, I've got my my monster toys, and I've got this one house play set, and I'm just gonna fucking knock them
Make
all.
it work.
Yeah.
And then you got your random-
storylines.
You got your gorilla stuffed animal who comes in every now and again. It's beautiful.
You know, I would like to see this movie shot complete with action figures, though.
Oh man.
You mean
Stop
we weren't-
motion, yeah.
We weren't watching that? With all the dummies, I kind of lost track. These
excellent.
are just toys.
Britt, what's your favorite part? Do you have one?
I really don't. I mean, I feel like we covered all my favorite parts under like strengths and everyone else's favorite parts. Although there was one scene where the mercs / drug dealers, I honestly don't remember what was going on at that point, but they just like go down to this village and there's like literally 1,000 villagers just standing in a circle watching two dudes arm wrestle. And I just thought that was so fucking awesome. I was like, wow, they have really drawn a crowd for this.
Well, they didn't have cable, so you know.
There was that one mercenary dude that just thought it was the most amusing thing in the world. He's like, they're having an arm wrestling fight. Like he was elbowing the guy next to him. Like
couldn't wait to see who the victor was going to be.
Get it? Arm wrestling. Get it?
Yeah, I was doing
No.
it. Like, it was
Yes,
like a
it's
Norm
what
Macdonald joke. Like,
That's exactly what they're doing. They're arm wrestling.
Any other favorite parts before we move on to the ratings? No, we're exhausted the favorite parts.
I am exhausted.
if I
I'm
kept talking about
exhausted.
favorite parts, we'd be here forever. So
That's true. We'd have to recall the entire movie for the most part. So let's rate it then. Let's go around. Dennis,
Fuck yeah.
kick it off. Give it a fuck yeah.
Oh yeah, this is excellent. I mean, a lot of times you can describe a movie. It's like, well, watch it until this part, watch it until this part, and then But this, it was consistent. It wasn't even like every 10 minutes. It was every scene something good was going to happen. And with a movie like that, that's all you can hope for. So absolutely, fuck yeah.
Excellent. I can agree with that. Eric.
gonna have to agree. Gonna fuck yeah.
You go, fuck yeah.
I've always been a fan of these types of movies. This is completely on the banana ends of things. Bananas end of things.
Bananas end. Banana ends.
Banana end.
BANNINS.
This
Moving
is
on.
the Apple end of things.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah, no, just every single scene has something to offer. Honestly, the fact that the plot is incoherent is kind of a strength to me because I don't feel like I have to understand it in order to follow a thread.
I agree 1,000%.
Had everything I wanted. It had monsters. It had nipples.
Yeah.
It had gorillas.
I think the only reason it's not my favorite movie of all time is that it didn't have any ninjas, which I would have expected from Godfrey Ho.
That's true. There was a lack of ninja.
Yeah. But I mean, that dude in the yellow suit was doing some ninja type shit. So you know what? I'm going to go back. Yeah, fuck yeah. He was doing the hand signs and stuff. Yeah, the dude with the yin hat.
The guy who summoned the Jiangshi.
yeah.
He was like
controlled
doing
them.
all sorts of like ninja hand signs.
You
and stuff.
call them the Jung shit.
John shit.
Them fucking the Jung shit. The zombie.
Those things. I will rate this movie, and I will also give it a fuck yeah.
Oh!
But I don't think I liked it as much as you guys did. I don't think so. There was a couple of parts that really dragged for me, and I mean, as funny as it was, I would recommend watching it. It's a pretty good one, but I wouldn't go all out and say like you're gonna love it.
That's true.
I wouldn't do that to somebody. I mean, I am gonna give it a fuck yeah because I did enjoy it, but I'm not sure I'd recommend it to anyone if that makes sense.
I get the sense for a lot of people the mercenary scenes would probably drag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of it that was just real low.
I don't know. There was a few funny parts in the mercenary ones that made it worthwhile. Like Brittany
Yeah.
said, the arm wrestling part was a real what the fuck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I gave it a fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to be very clear here. I'm gonna hold back just a little bit, even though I am giving it a fuck yeah.
I think you should have an honest understanding of what this movie is, because if you just go
Yeah.
off the title, you're not going to get what you're expecting it to be.
Definitely
Totally.
not. Which is probably a little bit of a good thing too, because the movie is just so outrageous.
You know, like Doll Man, which we'll be discussing at a later
Yes. We'll get into Doll Man at a later date. Britt, what do you rate this movie?
Fuck yeah.
Oh, is this our third fucking
This
sweep?
is our first ever fuck yeah sweep.
Our first fucking sweep.
Yay! Ricky O wasn't a fuck yeah?
No, that was a joke.
This is a running joke.
Yeah, because every time we get a fuck yeah sweep, we have to say it's the first one. The first one was Ricky O. The second one
Christmas tree.
was Christmas Tree, and now we have RoboVampires, which is we're all slapping our approval on it.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said. I also agree that there were a few parts that kind of dragged. But for me, the mystery of trying to piece together a coherent, like, understandable plot between those boring parts was, like, entertaining enough to get me through them.
Totally, because they were dangling plot in front of you, and you just had to kind of chase after like
yeah,
a
like
carrot.
you're
on a
watching
treadmill.
it, and it's, like, kind of a boring scene, but at the same time, you're like, what the fuck does this have to do with anything?
I had a little bit of inside baseball, but I love that before we started this and before I had even picked the movie, you said, I'm going to start taking better notes. I'm going to try to piece together the plot. And I ended up picking this.
I know, you were like, don't even bother to try. And I did bother to try, and then it just wasn't happening.
It really wasn't happening.
Can't do it.
This is, I mean, I gave this movie a fuck yeah, but I literally
Too
have the
crazy.
lowest amount of notes I've ever given a movie.
I have a lot of notes, but it's a lot of just like random thought salad.
Yeah,
Just, like,
I have like
floating.
a page and a half, and same thing here.
But it literally had everything. It had robots, which wasn't really a robot, but it had robots, it had vampires, it had zombies, it had
Nipples.
kung fu, it had nipple ghosts, it had gorilla masks, it had explosions,
Yeah.
guns,
Yeah. It
beach
had
scenes.
The whole package. Any final thoughts?
Chinese water torture.
If you're watching this, you find yourself asking, who would make something like this? Well, I'll tell you who. Two of the meanest fuckers around. That's who.
Godfrey and Ho.
Good Godfrey. It's Ho.
I look forward to more from his
Yeah.
oeuvre.
I'll be picking another one in a couple of months. Don't worry about it.
One of my final thoughts is going to be that we know that our RoboCop type character does love long walks on the beach. That we do know. Any other final thoughts, guys?
Just that some people came to look at our apartment while we were watching this movie because our landlords are potentially selling the house. And as about 8 people filed through our living room, I think we just scared them all to death. They're like, what is this?
Yeah, we were watching in the middle of that.
Watching some strange Asian kung fu vampire flick. We all have notebooks and we're watching intently.
Almost in the dark as like 3 families with kids file through our house. And they're just like, hey,
So that was fun.
that was weird.
All right, that's it. You've been listening to Second Class Cinema. We just watched RoboVampire 1988 Godfrey Ho movie. We
Awesome.
watched it on YouTube. Don't buy it, please. I don't know how you could.
I don't listen to this guy. He's
I don't
out
even
of
know
his
where you
mind.
could find it.
You might find it at a dollar store.
Maybe.
Like,
Oh,
you know how
really?
They have like those cheap little thin DVD cases.
No way. Would this be one of those?
Yeah, you usually find like Godfrey Ho movies on those.
I wonder if
Interesting.
VHS PS has it.
That is also something we can check. But yeah, we watched it on YouTube. You can find it there if you really are inclined. There's a bunch of stuff on YouTube about it. Couple of clips, couple of smash clips. What are those called?
Couple of clips.
You guys should
Couple of clips.
got your clips. You watch on YouTube.
If you want to find more information about Second Class Cinema, visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/secondclasscinema, or email us, secondclasscinema@gmail.com. YouTube, Second Class Cinema. We are on Twitter at 2ND Class Podcast. The number 2ND Class Podcast on Twitter. Instagram, we're on a bunch of stuff. So follow us. And
Everywhere.
we are everywhere. I should just stop listing it all.
No, it's fine.
All right, I'll keep listing. I kind of like it.
Yeah, keep going.
We're on Tinder. We're on
we're on-
Spotify. We're on-
Okay, we're done, guys. See you later.
Give me that. Who are you? We're 2 of the meanest fuckers around, that's who.